What if the person sitting in judgment of you didn't even know your worth? What if the person who held your future in their hands completely dismissed you, only to discover, far too late, that they had underestimated you? This is what Maya Williams faced one fateful morning in a courtroom, where the actions of one man would forever change the trajectory of both his career and her life. Maya Williams was a 24-year-old recent graduate of Harvard University, a young black woman who had worked tirelessly to earn her place in a world that often overlooked people like her. Growing up in a rough neighborhood, Maya's life had been defined by struggle. But despite the obstacles, poverty, racial prejudice, and being told she wouldn't make it, Maya had refused to let those things determine her future. Her drive, intellect, and a fierce determination were her weapons. She wasn't just any Harvard graduate. Maya had spent countless sleepless nights, sacrificing comfort and time with family to achieve something far bigger than herself. She knew she was capable, but to the outside world, her journey was seen as an exception, not the rule. Even when she had made it, there were still people who doubted her, who believed she didn't belong at places like Harvard, or that her success was just the result of affirmative action and not hard work. Maya wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. She'd worked her way through school, battling not just academic challenges, but the constant weight of racial prejudice that followed her like a shadow. Still, her belief in herself and her ambitions kept her moving forward. Her journey brought her to a pivotal moment, one fateful day, when she found herself in a courtroom with a man who would underestimate her in the most profound way. But it would be here, in the courtroom of Judge Michael Cartwright, that everything would change, just as she knew it would. The relationship between Maya Williams and Judge Michael Cartwright was built on a foundation of misunderstanding. Judge Cartwright, a 58-year-old white man, had spent decades in the judicial system. He was a product of the legal elite, a man accustomed to power, and a career that had seen no significant challenges to his authority. Cartwright had lived his life behind the veil of privilege, and his worldview was shaped by that privilege. To him, the system was just. It was simple. Those who were successful had earned it, and those who weren't successful just needed to try harder. Cartwright's dismissive attitude toward Maya Williams was based on his own assumptions. When Maya entered the courtroom, standing there before the judge, she was just another young woman in his eyes, another case, another person to be processed in a system that he believed had already worked for him. Maya, on the other hand, was there for far more than just a speeding ticket. She was fighting against the same system that had tried to silence her every step of the way. While Cartwright was indifferent to her background, Maya knew this moment was about more than a simple ticket. Her encounter with Cartwright was an opportunity to prove that she could not and would not be overlooked any longer. She wasn't just another black woman in the court system. She was a Harvard graduate with a voice that demanded to be heard. It all began with a routine speeding ticket, an incident that most people would brush off, but for Maya, it was something far bigger. She had been running late for a job interview at a law firm, a chance she'd worked tirelessly for. She had been trying to prove herself, just as she had done her entire life. And as a result, she was speeding on a deserted road late at night. When a police officer pulled her over, the exchange was not as simple as it should have been. Maya was polite and cooperative, but she had been pulled over by a police officer who, like many others, had already made assumptions about her. Her blackness had been enough for him to assume that she was a criminal, and he gave her a hard time. The ticket was issued, but Maya was determined to contest it. The next week, she stood in front of Judge Michael Cartwright, a man whose every word seemed designed to minimize her worth, to dismiss her efforts, and to erase the validity of her education. When she walked into the courtroom, she was already prepared for judgment. Judge Cartwright barely looked at her as he called her case. His first words were dismissive, not even glancing at the evidence or acknowledging her presence as anything but a case. His approach was cold, almost mocking. "Maya Williams," Cartwright called, his voice heavy with indifference. "What brings you here today?" Maya stepped forward, trying to stay composed. "Your Honor, I am here to contest a speeding ticket. I understand that I was speeding, but the circumstances were—" "What were those circumstances, Miss Williams?" Cartwright interrupted, barely acknowledging her explanation. He was more interested in rushing through the case than understanding it. "I was running late for an important interview at a law firm. I've just graduated from Harvard University, and I'm doing everything I can to make a future for myself." Cartwright barely looked up from the papers in front of him. "Harvard University, huh?" His voice dripped with condescension. "Well, that's nice, but you're still here in front of me, trying to get out of a speeding ticket. Doesn't sound like your education is doing much for you, does it?" Maya felt the sting of his words, but she refused to let him break her. This wasn't just about the ticket. This was about everything. The years of proving herself. The countless moments when people assumed she wasn't capable. When her worth was always questioned. This was the culmination of every moment she had fought to be seen as an equal. "Your Honor," Maya began again, her voice growing stronger, "I am not asking for special treatment, but I believe my circumstances should be considered. This ticket doesn't define me. It doesn't define who I am or where I come from." Judge Cartwright chuckled and leaned back in his chair. "Oh, really?" he sneered. "So now we're going to bring in the Harvard card. You think that changes anything here? You're still just another young person who broke the law." But this time, Maya's patience was gone. She wasn't going to let Cartwright's ignorance stand in the way of her truth. She took a deep breath, standing tall in front of him. "Your Honor, I've worked hard to get where I am. Every step of the way, I've had to fight to be seen as more than just another statistic." She paused, locking eyes with him. "I'm not asking for leniency because of my degree. I'm asking for fairness, for you to see me as someone capable, someone who is more than just a ticket holder." The courtroom fell silent. Judge Cartwright stared at her for a long moment, clearly taken aback by the strength in her voice. For the first time, he hesitated. I see," Cartwright said slowly, his voice less sure now. The room shifted, and Maya realized something had changed. She wasn't just another person in his courtroom. She had made him see her, truly see her. The power shift in that moment wasn't just about Maya winning a small case. It was about shifting perceptions. It was about the realization that Maya wasn't defined by assumptions or stereotypes. She was defined by her character, her education, and her ability to stand up for what was right. Judge Cartwright paused, his arrogance faltering for the first time in his career. He looked at Maya again, no longer dismissing her, but truly seeing the woman before him. He took a deep breath and sighed. "I will dismiss the ticket, Miss Williams, and I apologize for my earlier comments." Maya stood there, stunned. The room, which had been silent, suddenly felt filled with energy. She had done it. She had stood up to a system that had been designed to push her down and came out victorious. But more than that, she had made a man who had spent his life in power rethink everything he thought he knew about people like her. Maya left the courtroom that day, feeling like a weight had been lifted. It wasn't just the dismissal of the ticket. It was the realization that she had made a mark, a change. Judge Cartwright's apology spread through the legal community, and it was talked about for weeks. The public was divided. Some praised him for admitting his mistake, while others criticized him for not recognizing his own biases earlier. But for Maya, the victory wasn't just in the courtroom. It was in how she made people see her, and how she made them rethink their assumptions. Maya's case became a symbol, a reminder that no one should be underestimated. No one should be judged based on the color of their skin, the way they look, or the background they come from. Months later, Maya landed the legal assistant position at the law firm, and her career began to soar. She was offered scholarships to attend prestigious law schools. Her journey wasn't just one of personal success. It was one that inspired others to stand up, speak out, and prove that they were more than the stereotypes people placed on them. How many times have we been overlooked, dismissed, or underestimated because of who we are or where we come from? Maya's story teaches us that it is our strength, our character, and our resilience that define us, not the assumptions others make about us. We can change the world, one conversation at a time, by challenging the biases that exist in our society. Have you ever been underestimated or judged based on your background or appearance? How did you respond? And how did that moment shape your future? If Maya's story resonates with you, like and share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next story, because every story of injustice is a chance for us to make a difference.